Good morning. Do you know what human capital is? Have you ever heard that expression? How interesting. New to me. I am learning through the study of the Constitution so many different things that I never knew before. But one of the things that I've found in research for this week's Contemplating the Constitution is human capital. There is such a thing that is human capital. The definition of this term is an intangible asset or quality not listed on a company's balance sheet. It can be classified as the economic value of a worker's experience and skills. This includes assets like education, training, intelligence, skills, health, and other things employers value, such as loyalty and punctuality. The economic value of the abilities and qualities of labor that influence productivity. These qualities include higher education, technical or on the job training, of course, health, we've mentioned before, and values such as punctuality. How interesting to me. There's actually a term to this. We all that have ever been in the workforce would recognize these qualities, intangible assets or quality, as just general terms. But of course, there are some that have these qualities and some that don't. So, human capital. What an interesting concept, what an interesting term. And we'll find out more on today's show of Contemplating the Constitution.
I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution.
The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.
Good morning. My name is Mark David Smith, and you're watching Contemplating the Constitution. I apologize for the glare in my glasses, and this is always here. The lighting situation for the studio is really bad, and what you're seeing glare is the computer system that I have to do the show, and so I apologize first of all at this. What I don't apologize for is the information that we are giving here on this show, because and I've expressed this many times myself, is that I'm learning myself in the research that I'm doing. I'm learning so much from the study of this, the research that I'm doing on this, and every week I come across things that I should have known years ago. I'm 65 years old, and it's like, why didn't I already know this? And so at the beginning of the show, if you're coming in a little bit late, I talked a little bit about a term called, let's go back and make sure I'm saying it right, because this is a human capital. And this is something, it's an intangible asset or quality not listed on a company's balance sheet. And these are things that we take for granted, but yet in different generations, there are different qualities and assets that each of us have that we bring to the workplace, that we bring to our community, and whether or not it is a religious community, even virtually, like the Lamb Network or your job, that type of thing. And I'm very interested in these things that are brought forth basically through the study of the Constitution. Had I even had an inkling of the idea that I could learn so much by studying this out, a personal study of the Constitution, my gosh, I'd have done this years ago. And so if you're new to the show, or you have only seen a couple of episodes, you can go to the website for the network, and I hope you've been there already, because there is a massive amount of videos and archives of shows that we've done, segments of shows. If you don't want to watch a whole show, my gosh, there's literally hundreds of segment videos of the segments of shows that we take out of the shows. But Contemplating the Constitution is a video series that you can find right there, and all the different articles and sections and different things that we've already talked about, even segments. We've done a couple of things like the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, and what is the governor's executive order? These things do apply to the Constitution. They apply to our everyday life and how we live and how those that live around us live, and the government that we adhere to here in the United States, and what their duties are. One of the expressions that I find so interesting in the Constitution that I never noticed or never knew before, or never paid attention before, is they all say the Congress shall have the power to. And so maybe this is what we need to know. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's not a maybe. This is what we need to know. What does the Congress have the power? The power to. And so in today's distracting times, we find that there are many things that are happening around us that that are constantly being compared to or rationalized by the Constitution. Is it constitutional? That type of thing. And it's so funny, because now that I'm deep heavy into this study of the Constitution and what it applies, how it applies to me, how it applies to you, how it applies to community, how it applies to our government, and what they have the power to do. It now is a what do you call it? One of those trigger words that pop up whenever I hear newscasts, or I even hear people here on the Lamb Network or any place else, just in casual conversation, is the word Constitution or constitutional is brought up, and it will trigger that thought in my mind. Are you using that word right? And is this constitutional? Show me. Okay, now I'm from the Missouri state now. It's like you say something and you're just in general topic. I almost always my response is, okay, show me. If you're saying the word is this constitutional or that's not constitutional, okay, show me that it's not constitutional, because I'm wondering. Matter of fact, I heard a teacher last Sabbath talking about COVID and a couple of different things that are going on. And he said something about it not being constitutional. And my ears pop up, my eyebrows pop up and say, yeah, please search that out and tell me how that's not constitutional. I want to know what Abigail O'Hare has to say. I caught you.
Cheers.
Abigail, how art thou today?
Hey, I'm living the life.
Are you constitutional today, Abigail?
The truth of the matter is I try to stay constitutional every day. I'm just telling you. I mean, I tried, because I know if I'm not anchored in the Constitution, but my Constitution is the Torah. But also, I give a lot of respect to the Constitution of the United States of America, because I just love this country. And it grieves me. I have to tell you, I think that's why I'm so spiritually focused, because what's going on in this country is it's just sad. It's just very sad to see where the human race has brought itself. And we can't blame anybody but the human race and their choices. And the people the people who have put certain people in office. But the good news is this, and what you were talking about just really resonated in my heart. I was doing a little quick research on some things, and it's a wake up. I have to say right now, people are waking up, and they're waking up in a respect of many areas. Sure. I mean, some people are waking up. I don't know if you've ever had this experience.
I'm one of them.
Yeah. Yes. I don't know if you ever had this experience where you said, I'm just going to take a little nap. I'm going to lie down and I'm just going to rest my eyes for a little while. And next thing you know, you're out of it. You don't even know you're out of it. Right. And then all of a sudden something happens and you go, oh, what did I do? And it's like you didn't even realize that for that little time of closing your eyes, you were out for an hour.
Right, right.
So think in terms of an hour of sleeping without even knowing it. Mm-hmm. And that's where I see that we're at. We've been a lot of people have been asleep. They've been daydreaming. They've been living the life. I'm
one of them.
I think we all have. The truth of the matter is, because things have gone. You just living the life. But when we say living the life, what are we living? We're saying we're trying to keep a roof over our head. We're trying to find our way. We're trying to do the American way, if you will.
Right.
But we are trying to do it for who? For ourselves. We're trying to for our family and whatever. Right. And we lose I think we lose sight of we the people and how that we are all connected one way or another, or disconnected.
Sure.
We're either connected or we're disconnected, but we're all in the United States. Right. And so the disconnect happens when we sleep and we're not part of what's going on. We're not engaged.
That's right.
And so that's that's what I think has stirred your heart, Mark, is, and we have to be engaged. This is where this is called the home of the free.
That's right. That's right. I wonder sometimes it's almost as though the government is trying to disengage us for some reason, or somebody is, with what's going on. But yes, 100% true. Everything you just said. That one thing that I'm noticing though is Governor O'Hare is not with you today.
I know.
And I know why, but my gosh, I sure have learned a lot on this show simply by some of the things that he knows. And so I understand he now has a new job and it's taking him away from us.
I know.
But thank God. I actually literally when I read his email letting me know that he got the job, I literally had a tear in my eye. I was so happy for the two of you. And, you know, I mean, I know your situation and things that are going on, and I understand, but still, I'm happy and sad. I'm almost bipolar over this.
Well, I have dealt with people who are bipolar, so I'm here for you.
I have too. I've lived with people that are bipolar. I know that. I know exactly what it means. But anyway, so good. Very, very good that you're here. And just kind of go back over what we've done. And this is interesting. Last week, Abigail couldn't be in. Her sound was totally messed up, and I'm so glad you got all that sorted out. I'm sure James came in and probably switched one switch, and there you were.
One switch.
One switch, I'm sure.
And I was trying to do a troubleshooting with him, but you mentioned he has a new job, and I have to say, and Governor O'Hare would much rather be sitting here. He would much rather be sitting here. And so a door opened up for him, and now he's on a totally different learning curve, if you will. And but personally, it's not so much him being on the learning curve as it is him being governor to the learning curve to try to help people get on the right track, if you will. But I told him, I just got off the phone with him, and I said, I said, I feel like, I want to go on there and be with Mark, and I love talking about this. I said, but there's someone missing.
Yeah, well,
he's supposed to be in that chair.
Yeah, well, keep that chair visible so that we keep that in mind. I like that a lot. So, very good. Well, we joke around. We call him Governor O'Hare because he does have just tremendous insight into a lot of what we talk about here in Torah. I mean, his balance on teaching Torah and the Constitution and all this kind of stuff is of great value to me. It's invaluable, and so we'll miss him, but I expect him back here periodically, once or twice, and we'll see. Okay, so last week I did the show by myself, and it was okay. I actually ran through some things, my research, and it turned out real good. I love having the feedback. Sherry Flanagan is with us a lot of times, and she's in delay of internet situations, losing one and getting a new one, and right in the middle of that. I'm going to put into the chat my main source of research, and we'll just show that up there on the screen for a couple of minutes. And this is what we're Article 1, Section 8 is where we're at right now in the Constitution, and we have already gone through. See, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 through Clause 4. Last week I talked about Clause 4A and 4B and kind of zipped them up a little bit. But let me go back just a little bit and recap what we've talked about in Article 1, Section 8 of the United States Constitution. It's one of the things that I brought up last week, and I think is still very interesting, and we will be talking a little bit about today, is that starting with Clause 1, it says the Congress has the power to lay and collect taxes, duties, excises, and to pay the debts and provide for common defense and general welfare. It's interesting, right away, Section 8 jumps right into money. I'm calling this episode, it's all about the Benjamins. Because Section 8 seems to be all about the Benjamins. And once again, it starts right off with Section or clause 1 being collecting taxes. Clause 2 jumps right into Congress having the power to borrow money on the credit of the United States. Clause 3, it has the power to regulate commerce right away. Clause 4 as the it changed directions and went into having the power to establish a uniform rule of naturalization. Being, interesting, they had a theme kind of going there with money and then jumped off, but then came right back with clause 4B having the power to establish uniform laws on the subject of bankruptcies. I think it's real interesting, Abigail, that they start off by saying that they have the power to borrow money, in other words, go in debt, and then they can regulate commerce, and then they have the power to establish uniform laws on bankruptcy. So let's go in debt, let's regulate commerce, and then let's talk about bankruptcies. It's like, well, we're supposed to be a country that has a balance, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. We're going to talk about weights and measures and the U.S. Treasury securities and all this. But I thought it was an interesting progression of topics there in Section 8 that just seems to keep going, because in Clause 5, which we're talking about today, Clause 5A says the Congress shall have the power to coin money. Okay, so we can borrow money and go in debt, which actually it's not saying that. It's borrow money on the securities or what we have in the United States. So in other words, they're supposed to be backing that up by what we have here. Let's see, let's go back. Borrow money on the credit of the United States. So, credit to me means that you already have something. So what is the United States worth? And so how interesting, we can borrow money and then we can regulate the bankruptcies thereof. Now we have the power to make our own money and regulate the value thereof and foreign coins. So they can regulate the value of our money, what it's worth. But of course, obviously, it's like, anything. It's funny. Abigail, have you ever seen the show American Pickers? Are you familiar with the American Pickers? You know what this show is at all?
No.
Okay, it's one of my all-time favorite shows, and it's two guys that own a retail business, but they go out and they buy, I want to say, I'm going to use the word antiques, and it's on the History Channel, because it is a very good source of finding the history of random things. But what they do is they will go throughout the United States, and I've even seen them go outside the United States, but mostly they'll travel around the United States and they find these places, these businesses or even individuals that have collected items over a long period of time. And you might look at some of these people's collections and say, oh, those guys are hoarders, those aren't collectors. But in fact, most of them are actually collectors. They just buy stuff over the period of time. And these two men travel around and they'll go to these different places, like a farm or a ranch that has multiple barns and they're just packed full of these things. And as they go through them, individual items, they will talk to the owner and say, you know, I want to buy this item. How much do you want for this item? And they'll go back and forth. Okay, well, I want this much. Well, I'll give you this much. And these two guys, because they've been in business for so long doing this, they have a vast knowledge of what antiques and things are worth, even little electric motors and stuff like that. They know this so well, and they're able to kind of dicker back and forth with these people. But it's interesting because I'm reading here in Clause 5A where the Congress shall have the power to regulate the value of money and the value of things. And these men know the value, but of course they're in retail, so they have to buy these items at a certain amount so that they can take them back, and whether or not they fix them up, they restore them or not. A lot of times they just leave them even with the mud still on them, you know, and hang them on the wall. And things that you and I would seem to buy at a flea market for $5, they're paying $600 for. But they know the value of that. They also know, and the value being, once again, what somebody will pay for it. For you and me, we go to a flea market and see an item, and to us, it's only worth maybe $5. To these guys, they know they see something, their value assessment is based on they know what someone else will pay for this item. And I find it so interesting. It is one of the most amazing shows I've ever watched. And because, again, it's on the History Channel, and it literally helps you learn a lot about a lot of these items. Well, it makes me wonder here on how does Congress know the value of our coin and even foreign coin and things like that? And to me, they had the power to regulate this. It makes me consider, first of all, our money, our coin, our assets have to be at a value themselves, first of all. So, we know that the dollar really isn't worth a dollar, but it is worth an amount. And I didn't look this up to see. I didn't just forgot to do that. But today, it's worth probably a lot less than a dollar based on what somebody will buy something for, I guess. And so I find this real interesting. The notes are that Congress controls the minting of money and theoretically sets its value. And that theoretically means that it has to do with what the worth is according to our way of life and what we do with it and that type of thing. Now, we have a couple of different people on the Lamb Network that are from Canada, and I have donated money to a ministry in Canada, and I know that I have to go get the exchange amount, find out what it is, so I know how much to actually give them that will equal up to what I'm giving them. And so I that really plays right into this Clause 5A. And it's interesting to me how value of not only items that we own, like for instance, this microphone. This microphone was paid for retail by a certain thing, but its value is only as much as what someone would pay for it if I wanted to sell it. That's its value. I can give it a value. I can say it's worth $1,000. Okay, I mean, that's not what was paid for it, but I can say that is, but that makes no difference. The value is only what somebody, if somebody will only give me $1 and nobody else will give me, and I need to sell it, then that microphone is only worth $1. See, and that's interesting to me. So, any input you got on that? Anything you want to add to?
Well, yeah, I did have experience with what you're talking about. Years ago, one of my aunts passed away, and I didn't know this. This was years ago. I didn't know that we were in her will. I thought she was going to leave all her money to her poodle. She didn't have any children, and I loved her and she loved us, but I had no idea. And then before she passed away, she did let my sister and I know that we were in her will, and she wanted us to know that specifically, and it was a good thing she did. But anyhow, I had an experience because she had a lot of valuable possessions in her home. And when she wrote the will, she said, I don't want you to the lawyer. She said, I want there to be an estate sale. I don't want you to leave this here for my nieces to divide among them, because I don't think they'll do it. I don't think they'll like doing that, or they won't get along when they do it. Right. And so the lawyer said to my sister and I, they said, do you think you can do this without any problems? And we said, yeah. I mean, there would be no problems. There would be no problems at all, you know. Now, my sister, who had a background in antiques and things of that nature, and she would actually put them on eBay, so she had more understanding of it. I'm looking at things more like, well, it's pretty to the eye, and it has a memory, and I've always admired that, and blah, blah, blah. But the two of us went through that whole process without any problem. I mean, it was like we did it like there was no problem. Oh, I've always liked that. Sure. So we just divvied it up. So to make a long story even longer, when I got the possessions, they did a list and they itemized what the value was of the things that I chose.
Right.
My jaw dropped. I was like, you got to be kidding. And and it all had to do with, it was just depending on what it was. But anyhow, the bottom line is this, that it's a very interesting science, if you will, to be able to value an article. You know, you look at things and you're saying, well, I know it's historical and I value history, you know, but to put $1 and cents behind it, or many dollars and cents, it's like, but where we are today as far as value and all that kind of thing, I had someone come into my home when we had all this stuff, and an antique dealer, and I asked them, because we have a place in Boston here on Channel 2 where they do the same thing you were talking about. People bring their items in, and they'll bring one item in, and this person will look at it, and they'll say, I've had this in my attic for 20 years. It was Aunt Sarah's, and I don't know what to do. And they looked at it, and they said, do you know this is worth $700,000?
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah. But they, so it's interesting, that whole concept of understanding it. You know, there's just so many layers, like there isn't any part of it, because the number one, the work that was done on it, and also the material that's used in it. You know, a piece of glass, you may look at like it's just one little glass, and say it's a red glass. Say it's a red color glass. I didn't know that red in glass had gold in it, so it upped the value. Yeah. So anyhow, where we are today, as far as the people assessing the value of $1, what I hear, because of everything that went on with all the shutdown and businesses shutting down and everything happening, and then the giving to people because they needed like unemployment checks, or they needed insurance, or they needed help with their mortgage, or they needed to have a grace period. Please, don't have to pay my mortgage. So they give this charity, if you will, to how many people? I mean, millions of people. I mean, it went out. We have about 300 and something million people in the United States of America, and so when I hear the people talking like about this on Congress, and then I also hear the people who are in the stock market talking about it, and I try to wrap my mind around, number one, let's say the stock market with their value. And when all these political things are going on between the Congress and all the politicizing and all that, and all the trade that has been been cut off with other countries. So every time something happens, you look at the stock market and you see, you want to hear, has it gone up or has it gone down? And what determined that? And my mother used to always say this to me about the value of the stock market.
Yes.
She would say to me, she would watch it. And I would say, wow, it looks like, I would look at it a little bit with her and I'd say, wow, it looks like it's going down. And she'd say, don't worry, it will adjust. I said, what do you mean it will adjust? She said, the stock market is like the emotions of people. You talk about bipolar. It's like the emotions of people. And so you can value the money in the stock market based on the emotion of the person or the people that are behind the corporations.
Right.
Because they look at you and I and they'll say, they're going to buy on this situation. They're going to spend their money in this area. So right. I look at the value and why would I? So then I look at the Congress. Now I'm looking at the Congress and them having this kind of leverage.
Right.
These people having leverage with the economy of the United States of America. And have you ever checked their bank account? Did you ever do it?
Good point. That's right.
I mean, these people, they are rolling in the dough. Let me just say it. They're in their guarded communities, and they've made a career out of what they're doing, and they don't have any financial challenges. So I look at them and I say, okay, if that was Mark David Smith and me, and then we got elected where we are today with our financial bank account. We got elected, and here we are in this situation, whatever it is. I don't know whatever. If you have thousands of dollars in your bank account, right, or you're living from paycheck to paycheck, and you just say, "I'm going to run for office. I believe that I'm going to make a difference in the United States of America, and I want to run for Congress. I want to have some leverage in this situation because I have empathy for those people who are living paycheck to paycheck." I'm just using that as an example.
I understand. But
then let me ask you a question. So over the course of 30 years, and then you find out, you do a little research on how when they got elected, where were they financially? And you find out, Mark, how can they make a value judgment? Really, how can somebody who is rolling in the dough, right? How can people make a value judgment? And there's some people that are saying stupid things like, "Oh, the people are out there, and you know why they're stealing? Because they're hungry, and so they're stealing a loaf of bread. So let them steal the loaf of bread." Now, let's be honest, Mark. I don't know if you've watched any news. I haven't seen any looters running around with a loaf of bread under their arms. I've seen them with all kinds of clothes and boots and everything. But this is a person who's making these decisions. Right. And I'm like saying, and I'm talking about us in America today. When you talked about the Benjamin theory, the Benjamin,
all about the Benjamins. Yeah.
Do you know who the Benjamins are? Do you know where that started?
Well, Benjamin Franklin, who's on.
No, actually, I'm going to tell you something because I did a little Google on it. I said, wait a minute. Benjamin, he was if I can find it now, because I looked it up and I said, what is the Benjamin? He was I believe he was a black senator, and his name was Benjamin Sterling. I mean, Turner Benjamin Sterling. And he was a former self-made businessman. He lived in 1871. That's when he was born, and died in 1870. No, wait a minute. Sorry. That can't be right. Anyhow, he was in the 1800s. Okay. Born in 1825. And you know what he did? He was in Congress. He was in Congress during the Civil War, and they were going through a problem with finances. And he was able to turn things around in Congress. And he was a I believe he was a black. I think he was. Let me see if he was Civil War. And these people had struggled longer and labored harder and have made more of raw material than any people in the world, he noted. And what he was doing was he was giving. He was born a slave in 1825, and he is the one that turned things around economically. So I get that mindset. I'm saying, now that's the kind of guy that I would want in the Congress. I would want somebody that lived a lifestyle,
Right.
turned his life around by rolling up his sleeves, and said, I want to also become a servant so I can provide. And he manufactured weapons. He manufactured weapons, and for the Civil War, and he did all kinds of things to balance the budget, and it brought the economy around. So why am I saying all that? I'm saying
Good
where are we
example.
today?
Right.
You know, because that to me is the kind of heart and man that I would want making decisions. Someone that actually lived a life.
Sure.
And knew what it was out in the fields, and knew what it was like to have maybe some opposition, maybe some problems. I'm just saying, who's making these decisions for the United States of America?
Yeah.
Don't you think it's the heart of the matter that's creating this problem? I mean, I get it, because I know ignorance when it comes to when I got all this stuff, and I'm like, now what do I do with it? Fill my shelves, or do I sell it? You know what I'm saying? Do I sell it, or do I say, no, that's Annie June's? I can't sell. But anyhow, that's another story.
Well, no, it's a real good analogy and very well said on all of that. It comes around. I mean, it's we hear the stories and we know the stories and that type of thing. So yeah, it's good. You were talking about your estate sale earlier, and I remember when my parents both passed, and the three children had to sell off the estate. And let me just tell everybody, my opinion is, if you're selling off a loved one's estate, don't be there. Just don't be around. Just wait, just go somewhere else and let them give you the check and walk away with it. Don't battle it at all, because all three of us were there and watched the estate sale, and it was literally everything from the furniture to the trash cans were auctioned off. And one of the things that just devastated my sister is that Abigail, are you familiar with Carnival dishes?
Yes.
They're multicolored. They're very sought after.
Yes.
My mother had a large set of Carnival dishes, and one bowl sold for $2 and a trash can sold for $4. And my sister just about lost it and rose up and got righteously indignant about it, because we were sitting there watching it, and it was like she just couldn't handle it. And I mean, I didn't know the value of anything, you know. So, but I'm with you on the estate sales and the value. Once again, I have to say, the value is only as much as somebody will pay for it. That's it. If you got a $55 million painting hanging on your wall, that painting is not worth $55 million. It's a cloth with paint on it in a frame on your wall until somebody will give you $55 or $55 million. That's all there is to it. So our Congress now has the ability to regulate the value of all money, period. And even foreign coin coming into the United States. That's why I say when I have made a donation to a ministry in Canada, I have to go to the United States, to find out the value of what I'm doing to set anyway.
No, I'm glad you brought that up, because I'm thankful the lawyer made that decision, and he looked at us and he said, "You don't seem like you're going to, because there is emotion behind the material of it, right?" But the truth of the matter is, it was called need. I mean, there were people in our family. My sister's family, she had children that had grandchildren, and there was some furniture there that they could use. Why sell it to somebody, so there was that kind of giving too. But the bottom, again, the value is different. The value, when you perceive things or when you have a value, there's a lot of emotion behind it. There's a lot of heart behind it. And I believe, to me, the way I see what's going on in Congress today, I'm not saying everybody. There are people that have a heart for the United States of America. There are people that have empathy and understand what people are going through because they've been through it. And then there's the person that really loves America and knows that the only way that America is going to be able to survive is if there's a person there that has the wisdom, and that's something that is needed in Congress, is wisdom in order to rightly divide and rightly distribute, and also think in terms of, what do human beings really need? Do they need a piece of furniture, or do they need a purpose and a function?
There you go.
Do they need to be actively involved? You've built, Mark. You've been a builder. You've built. And there's nothing more satisfying.
That's right.
To build and then to live in what you've built.
That's right.
And then to be and just to say, this is something that I put my blood, sweat, and tears into. But I can say, and I'm even with James and I are doing it. We were doing it before he got hired again. We were doing some building.
Yeah.
But it was fun. We enjoyed it. We were like saying, wow. And we did it in this house. We literally built this house that we're living in. But the bottom line is this, that to me is the wisdom, how the Father created us. And when you have bozos that are just thinking, if you just keep doting out money and keep giving money, and then people don't get the value of life in that type of
value. That's right.
It
lowers it. It's big time.
Right. Exactly.
Right. There's a TV show. I don't know if it's still going on, but it's called Antique Roadshow. Everybody's heard of it. I don't know. I never did watch it, but I remember years ago, 10 years or more ago, at Sukkot, we did a spoof on the Antique Roadshow, and we had the guy standing up on the stage, and people would bring things out to him and hold up their items, and he would assess what it's worth. And the spoof we did was he's standing up there, and this lady brings out a small Christmas tree. And, of course, the whole audience is like laughing and the whole thing. And he's trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to say to this one? What am I going to say? And he goes, "Ma'am, your item is worthless." It's not worth less. It's worthless.
That is
anyway. I'll never forget that. And good note to end this off on. I want to go through. Let's see the clause B, and we'll finish out Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 on this, and then next week we'll go with Clause 6, which has to do with, we continue on with the money theme that Congress has got going. Clause 5B says the Congress shall have the power to fix the standard of weights and measures. And that's interesting because Clause 5A uses the word regulate the value thereof. But in Clause B, it says they have the power to fix the standard of weights and measures. Now, in the past, I've had my own definition based on life and hearing this expression, this term, weights and measures, in everyday life. But I thought, I want to be sure I understand exactly what it means when it's in the Constitution. They've used this term, this expression, so to say, because it seems such a vast and a wide term here and not specific. And it also uses that word fix, which is a very permanent, very structured word, is fix. And so I looked it up, and here's the definition of weights and measures: is a comprehensive legal term for uniform standards ascribed to the quantity, capacity, volume, or dimensions of anything. Of anything. Quantity, capacity, volume, or dimensions of anything. Legislation that adopts and mandates the use of uniform systems of weights and measures is a valid exercise of the police power. That's an interesting expression. Have you ever heard the term police power, Abigail?
It sounds pretty self-explanatory.
It sounds like it, but that's what I thought too, and so I had to look it up too. But let me finish. It says legislation that adopts and mandates the use of uniform system of weights and measures is a valid exercise of the police power, and such laws are constitutional. Obviously they are, because in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5B, it says the Congress has the power to fix the standard of weights and measures. So it is constitutional. In the United States, constitutional law, police power is the capacity of the states to regulate behavior and enforce order within their territory for the betterment of the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of their inhabitants. How interesting that, we've been talking, and a lot of us on our different shows here on the network and all over the news and all over the country are talking about, the COVID-19, the coronavirus, the China virus, I like to call it, and what the government is doing as far as taking away freedoms and the different governors, executive orders, and what's the difference between, is this a law, is this constitutional, is this not constitutional? Well, believe it or not, right here in the understanding based on United States constitutional law, police power is understood that the states have the power to regulate behavior and enforce order within the territory for betterment of health, safety, morals, and general welfare of their inhabitants.
Yep. Well, that sounds like they've been exercising.
They have been exercising police power.
They've been doing it. And unfortunately, it depends on, again, the condition of their heart to how they are expediting it.
Sure.
And there's been so much corruption is because
Sure.
I understand states being, having that, control, if you will. It's good because again, it's the people who elect the people, and they're within that community and whatnot. But unfortunately, Mark, not everybody is doing what you're doing and what we're doing as far as doing their due diligence to try to figure out where is this going, and
Sure.
how are we allowing this to happen?
Sure.
Because we, the people, need to be more careful about who we elect. But it also goes back to another thing, Mark, about where we are today, because that's what's happening. Look what's happening in the state of Washington. Look what's happening. It is horrible. And look what's happening in Oregon. And look what's happening in New York City. But does that surprise anybody? Does that surprise anybody? If you really look at how people are running things, it's lawlessness. There's no moral pending to it. They're not looking at the whole picture. It is so self-endowed, if you will, the individual self that's making these decisions. And to me, it's selfish. There's a lot of selfishness involved here, and there's a lot of lawlessness. And
I agree.
And there's no wisdom. I don't see any wisdom. I don't see any, and I do see it coming from President Trump, that he's trying to help this lawlessness. He wants to help. And but there's a prophet in the Bible. I think it was Eliyahu, and he had Jezebel after him, and he was like getting kind of concerned because he thought it's over for me. And he said, am I the only one out here doing this? Am I the only one out here that's standing for justice?
Yeah, right.
Am I the only one that's standing on behalf, working for the creator of heaven and earth? And then his eyes were opened. His eyes were opened, and they said, he said, there's more for you than against you. And I said, hallelujah. That was music to my heart. And I know I've read that many times, but if we stand with the Father, if we stand with the creator of heaven and earth, our Messiah, our Redeemer, Yeshua, there's more for us than against us in this type of a situation. We may see it on the media that it looks like we better go find a rock and hide under it because this is not good. I've also heard people say in the state of, I think it was the state of Washington, everybody better wake up because you think it's not going to come to your neighborhood. Do you think that you're going to escape this? And he said, "This is a disease that is that's being, again, the execution, if you will, of money. See, there's money that's being given to these people to do what they're doing. They're being paid to do what they do. I'm talking about the ones that are causing chaos.
Sure.
So there's more for us than against us when we're on the side of the King." And therein lies my shalom, because it is just. Did you ever think you were going to see this in all of your lifetime? Did you?
I never. Here's what I'll answer that question with the fact that I have paid attention what's happened in other countries throughout the history of my life, and often wondered, how can America possibly get by without that eventually happening to us in one way or another? Not necessarily exactly like this, but I do know that there's been times in United States history where we have been very stand up and powerful, and we stand up for ourselves. And I know that there are times in history where we've been very lackadaisical in what we're doing, and we let our guard down. And I think right now, especially with everything going on, our guard is way, way, way down, and we open our immune system, the country's immune system is being opened up and weakened to the point to where, I don't know. I don't have, I'm not saying, but you asked the question, did I ever think that this could happen? And it's kind of like, I'm surprised that it hadn't happened before now. But I think it only happens because we are in a weakened state. We may have the best president we've had since Reagan. Well, as far as I'm concerned, we've had some really good presidents, and right now is a really good one. But I'm not so sure that the country isn't in a weakened state, and our immune system is very low right now. And so that's my answer to that. Yes, I have thought about it before. So
yeah, well, I want to give an encouraging word to all of us, including me. And I think that one of the most valuable fruits of the Spirit for us to all have right now, I mean, love is the most, but another one that's running a close second is faith, because we need a lot of faith right now.
Sure.
And we know what faith is. It's the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen yet. So we have to take that into our heart, that
Sure.
we have faith that we are not alone in this. The creator of heaven and earth, Yeshua HaMashiach, is with us in this battle. If we're with him, we have to be with him. Right. And I believe that right now we have to really make sure that faith is being exercised, and faith without works is dead. And you're right. That's where we have to get more active, is being actively involved in what we're doing here on Messianic Lamb Network.
That's right. That's right. Well, I want to go ahead and finish this up. We didn't get to clause 6 today, which is fine. We rarely get more than one section of the Constitution in one show. There's just too much to talk about, and we're going to call them constitutional trails. I
like that.
Constitutional trails.
Like
but it all fits together. Everything we've talked about fits together with what we're talking about here. And I will have to say, I think it's really interesting that I would have never thought until searching it out that Article 1, Section 8, Clause B, that says the Congress shall have the power to fix the standard of weights and measures, that weights and measures would actually be a definition and enter into what we are going through today as far as laws and as far as maintaining those laws and the police power, the exercise of police power, it being constitutional, and them enforcing order for health, safety, and morals, general welfare, falls into the idea of weights and measures, but it does. It all falls together as this, and you would think that it was just simply well, for instance, in history that has to do with this particular clause is in 1970s. It became controversial as traditionalists in Congress blocked President Jimmy Carter's attempts to begin a switchover to the metric system. When he was in office, he wanted the metric system implemented instead of our regular inches and feet and all of that. I don't know what to call it. Anyway, but it didn't happen. So thank God for Congress, because I'm glad we're not using the metric system right now. But, there still are people. But So all of this is so interesting to me, how one little thing can lead into a massive amount of inner things, inner ideas. Words don't come to me anymore. But anyway, so we talked about Congress having the power to coin money and regulate the value of money, and also to fix the standards of weights and measures. And weights and measures is a wide, vast understanding. And so, been a really good one today. I appreciate you so much, Abigail. This is fun to talk these things out and reason. That's what these morning shows are about. That I set up several years ago for us to do morning shows on the Lamb Network so that we could discuss and reason things out. And it's also interesting how much we agree on things.
I know. I love it. I love it. And the thing is, I like the weights and measures too, because things are weighed in the balance.
Yes,
that's the scripture, the weighing of in the balance.
That's true.
And so I believe that the Father is really, he's waking us up. He is definitely waking us up.
Very good. True.
And I'm thankful for that. I'm very thankful, because we have to be strong and of good courage, and we have to continue. I believe, you talk about reasoning together. I believe, Mark, without a doubt, that sitting down and having a conversation with people and discussing, just having conversation like this is so valuable, and it helps to bring a balance into our thought process. And to me, it stirs my heart to even want to be more active, more involved.
Amen.
Even the people on the chat room are very encouraged by this. And each person on the chat room will have someone they can influence, someone that they can talk to in their sphere of influence. And that's what strengthens us. It strengthens any weak link in the chain. And we need to be strengthened today. We need to have like-minded, like-kind conversations. And I'm very thankful, Mark. This is a blessing. I'm thankful to be a part of it. I called you and I said, should I go on? He goes, you make the decision. I said, okay, I'm going on.
Well, yeah, always. I want you here. I love your input. Before we go today, I am, let me just give everybody a kind of a quick view here. If you want to find our past episodes and watch whatever we've done here on these shows, this is the Lamb Network. That's MessianicLambRadio.com or the MessianicLambNetwork.com will get you to both places. And so if you go to the first page here, up here it says show information. Just click on show information and it will eventually, depending on, I'm sorry, I can't click up there. I have to click there. And the second one down is Contemplating the Constitution. If you'll click on that, it will give you a list of all of our past episodes. You can start from the very beginning and go through. These are all the episodes that we've done. By tomorrow, I'll be able to put today's show up there, and you'll be able to watch it. If you missed part of it, the first of it, all of it, whatever, want to tell somebody to watch it, then there you go. Once again, we talked about Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5A and 5B. And next week is a pretty interesting clause. It talks about the punishment of counterfeiting the securities. And I've done a lot of research on Treasury securities. Matter of fact, I was expecting to get to it. That's why I put my name as Treasury Security. But that's fine. We're going to get into that next week, and that's going to get very detailed and very very interesting. I've learned a lot about what we think we have credit in this country. We have credit. Yeah, sure we do. I'll tell you what the credit is. The credit is called, let me find it here, human capital. That's the credit. If you want to find out more about the credit of this company or this country, it's human capital. Tune in next week and you'll find out a lot more about this. It's very,
a little
very
tease, huh? A little tease. Woohoo!
well, tune in next week. There you go. All right. Thank you, Abigail, for joining me. It's been a great show, and we'll see you next week. Big time. All right. We got to go. Susan's here.
We are richly blessed to bring you what we believe is the fullest, most diverse, yet up-to-date progressive teachings, discussion, and prayer programming you can find anywhere on this planet. Be sure to take the tour of the MessianicLambRadio.com website. I'm Susan Hoogie, thanking you for joining us on the Messianic Lamb Video Network.
I, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, do solemnly swear.
I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, do solemnly swear.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
I will faithfully execute the office of President of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States.
The Constitution of the United States. So help me God.